Hello neighbor, this is Kurt with eTrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Kuat Transfer V2 bike rack and see how it works with our 2025 Mazda CX-30. So the Transfer V2 is a bike rack that's going to fit in your 2x2 inch hitch. It'll carry two bikes with a weight capacity of 40 pounds per bike. So there's going to be a lot of those e-bikes that are out there on the market that this may not apply to, but most of your standard bikes are going to be able to work just fine with it. It's wheel mounted, and it's mounted in the front by this post and hook. The hook has a rubber padding on it so it won't do any kind of damage to your wheel at all. And on the back here we have a single ratcheting wheel strap to secure your back tire. So to accommodate the smaller and larger wheelbases, the rear wheel cup is going to tilt, and using the provided tool that comes with the Transfer V2, you're also going to be able to move these wheel cups further and closer to each other just to accommodate the different styles of bikes. So this is a pretty modular bike rack from that sense. One of the other great things that we've got about it is that it does, using the provided tool, have an anti-rattle device inside of the hitch so that it can keep a really sturdy base while it's in there. There's not going to be a whole lot of slop while it's in your hitch receiver. And we're going to have the added security of having an included locking hitch pin. So let's take a look at how the Transfer V2 is going to fit with your Mazda CX-30. And for reference, the bike that we have on here today is a large frame with 15-inch handlebars and large pedals. So you can kind of use that as a scale to compare with what bikes you have at home. But as you can see, even with this larger bike, we have plenty of room between the back of the vehicle and the bike itself. Even on a rougher piece of road on the way to or from the trail, I really don't feel like there's any danger of these coming into contact with each other. But like with any hitch bike rack, there is going to be some visual obstructions coming out the rear of the vehicle with a bike mounted on the rack. For one, the Transfer V2 does have a bit of ground clearance, so it does carry the bike a little high up. You're going to see some of the bike out of your rear window. Other drivers are going to only partially be able to see your taillights or your license plate. And very importantly, you're going to have some obstruction coming out of your rear view camera. So it's extremely important to understand just what kind of footprint this is leaving behind your bumper. So if I'm going to measure from the bumper to the furthest part of the bike rack, which would be right here, we're going to come up with a number of around 32, maybe 32.5 inches. So keep that in mind. You've almost got an extra 3 feet back here that you're going to have to account for whenever you're parallel parking or backing into a tighter space. The other thing that we want to take a look at is our ground clearance. Now, I had mentioned that the CX-30 has a low hitch, and I had mentioned that this bike rack has a little bit of a rise to it to help us out with the ground clearance. But from the furthest point of the bike rack, we have about 18 inches of ground clearance, which should be more than enough, but you always want to keep that in mind whenever you're coming upon a steep incline or driveway. And lastly, the other thing that we want to take a look at is going to be how high do you need to lift that bike in order to get it onto the rack. Now, I had mentioned that there is a 40-pound weight capacity on this, which generally speaking on a bike, that shouldn't be too much trouble getting it up and down from this height. But if you really want to get it up on here, you're talking about a 22-inch clearance. That's to clear the top of this cup right here. If you feel like you don't need to clear that, you're talking about 18 inches in order to get it up on the rack. So just however much your bike weighs, just make sure you're comfortable getting it up and down from that height. Now, one of the most common questions that we get when it comes to a hitch bike rack is, will I have access to my cargo area? And we absolutely will. The design of the Transfer V2 is a bit ingenious in this way as far as being able to access that point that's going to allow us to tilt it. All we got to do is remove our arm here. We've got a foot pedal down here at the bottom that won't operate unless you hit the toe latch as well. So if I brace the bike and I flip up on that toe latch, then depress it, we can lower it away from the back of the vehicle. And at this point, I can come around and I'll get full access to my lift gate. Now remember, we have a really wide handlebar on this particular bike at 15 inches, and we still got a couple of inches of clearance here. So I would say that most bikes that you have out there, we're going to have no issue getting your lift gate open and closed. But the great thing is now I don't have to remove my bike from the carrier. I can get in and out of my cargo area, grab some extra equipment, store things away, or maybe on the way home from the trail, I just want to stop and get some groceries. This is just going to make it really, really easy to get all of that done without removing the bike. And in order to get it back up into its driving platform, all we need to do is lift up on it. We don't need to engage the pedal. We'll just lift up on it until it clicks and the pedal snaps back into place. Now we're back up into our riding position and we're ready to hit the road. So getting the bike on and off the rack is a really simple process as well. Now in our case here, we're going to be removing the bike from the rack. Whenever you're loading the bike on the rack, we're going to do it the opposite way. So when we're taking the bike off, we want to engage our rear wheel strap first. We're going to do that by depressing this tab right here and releasing the strap. We're going to pull it through our spokes and get it cleared back and out of the way. Next, I'm going to go ahead and grab hold of the bike and we're going to work our arm and hook. Now, when we're loading the bike, we want to make sure that we engage this first so that it can stay upright on its own when we're doing the rear wheel. We're going the opposite direction because we're taking it off. So now that we have our rear wheel strap disengaged, we're going to come over here to our hook. We're going to depress this button here on the front, lift the hook all the way up out of the way, and clear the wheel. Now at this point, we're able to reach over, lift our bike off of the rack, and we're able to either store it or hit the trail. Now when you don't have a bike on the Transfer V2 and you do ride frequently enough that you don't want to just remove it and reinstall it every time you're going for a ride, it does have a stowaway option. So you do have the possibility of having this in your hitch most times and still being able to drive around comfortably. So with the fold-up feature, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just lift this outer arm. That's going to give me enough room to go ahead and engage my pedal. And instead of letting it fall away this time, we're going to lift up against it. I'm going to go ahead and collapse this down on the way up and fold it up against the back of the vehicle. Now we're going to significantly reduce that footprint that we had behind the bumper while we're driving around without a bike on it. So now if I measure behind my bumper to the furthest point of the bike rack, which is this pedal, I'm at just under 11 inches. So I've reduced that to less than a foot back here behind the bumper. You still want to take account for it though that it's back there because we do still have some obscurities back here visually. We're going to be partially obscured through our rear view camera, and for other drivers we're going to have those partial obstructions with our tail lights and our license plate, but we're going to have full view out of our rear window. So the Transfer V2 could be an excellent choice for you and your Mazda CX-30. The only caveat being that you really want to pay attention to the weight capacity being at only 40 pounds. That's going to accommodate most standard bikes. However, with a lot of the e-bikes out there weighing 50, 55 pounds plus, those probably aren't going to be good candidates for this particular rack. But if after watching this video you decide that this is the bike rack for you and your Mazda CX-30 and you get it, you're able to use it a little bit, please share with us what you think about it in the comments below. Sharing your experience with other neighbors just like you can help them make the best decision for themselves. Once again, this is Curt with eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.